So when I was an undergraduate student at the University of Alberta, I took a course that would profoundly change the way I look at the world. It was a course called the Sociology of Killing. In this course, I was first introduced to the concept of lynching. Probably one of the most horrific acts that humankind has ever done. Now, for those of you who might not be familiar with this concept, this is an image from a public lynching. This was an opportunity for those who were fueled by racial hate to target African Americans and take them to a public square, usually beating them, sometimes to death, followed by a public hanging, an act that served two purposes. One, to keep and maintain the privilege of one group, while at the same time maintaining the status of another. And it was this act and learning about lynching specifically that really impacted me deeply. And it's the single-handed most important thing I think I learned in my post-secondary career that has led me to want to understand and address racism with the hopes of eventually, at some point, eliminating it. So even though we have ugly history of racism, we move 50 years later, right, in a somewhat called post-civil rights era, where we talk about being post-racism, right? We talk about different things related to anti-racism. We talk about different initiatives connected to not wanting to repeat that same history again. Even though those public forums of before, as I just showed in the other picture, aren't as prevalent anymore, racism, big surprise, still does exist. We just have to shift the platform a little bit. No longer are we seeing them in as much overt spaces as once before. But if we move online, we just see how racist we still continue to be. And that online realm, that online sphere is that new public spectrum a lot of people might not acknowledge of being a public space. So what is it about social media specifically that allows us to express ourselves in these hateful narratives? Well, social media makes it easy to digitally express ourselves and share that expression instantly. So even though we were told we aren't allowed to tweet right now as we're presenting, those of you afterwards, during the break, tweeting about this event specifically, you're now able to share yourself digitally and instantly, depending what platform you're using. Social media also enables social activity to happen faster and reach farther networks than ever before. You just have to look at Twitter's terms of reference to understand this message. They clearly state, be careful what you tweet about because it has the potential to reach a worldwide audience. And we've seen how many times in the past this has happened, and unfortunately, I'm sure we'll see how much more this will continue to happen as a result of that connection, right? We literally are connected by one small network. And this is where things get really interesting. Right? Social media as interconnected crowds doing their own thing, right? Each of us, whatever that platform might be that we're most comfortable with, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, which I'm still learning how to use, so I'm still a newbie there. But all these different forms of social media devices that we have to our access, it connects all of us together, right? Even though we're all doing our own thing, taken collectively, something amazing can happen, right? And this is where you have events turning into viral events. I want us to just take a look at some of these recent hashtags that have come up as a result of racial violence that's occurred offline. Black Lives Matter led into All Lives Matter. Had discussions about Blue Lives Mattering, so talking specifically about policing. The Ferguson hashtag, right? Probably one of the more dividing discussions we've had about race and crime and a post-racial era that we've seen over the last number of years. Followed by I Can't Breathe, which for those of you that might not be familiar, refers to the death of Eric Garner in New York, something that was caught on camera. All these hashtags and many others, which I haven't been able to obviously fit on one slide, further highlight that racism still does exist. Even in our own country, right? Canada, discussions around welcoming Syrian refugees. One just has to turn to the online realm to see just how hateful some of the sentiment got regarding welcoming newcomers to Canada. There's one big difference, though, right? Our neighbors to the south admit that this is still an issue, and they talk about it. In Canada, we don't acknowledge racism to be a problem, and that in itself is one of the biggest problems. So as we move forward, and as we try to understand the intersections between our online and offline worlds, we are provided a looking glass into the future. How we navigate our online selves and our offline selves can no longer be separate, right? They are one and of the same. But it's up to us now, as the users of those platforms, to try to understand and engage with if we want to have networks of hate or networks of hope. Otherwise, referring back to something we talked about earlier today, who knows what that potentially hateful future might look like. Thank you very much.